up, everybody? Pleasure. Thank you, my man, for inviting me. I know we connected just about like a month ago, and ever since we've had synchronicities, which maybe we'll talk about if we get to it. Just some pretty wild stuff with the brain and symbols. And long story short, it's like we're all finding each other. So it's really good. I'm glad to be on here sharing with your audience and people of the world, because this is we are the news, we are the future, we're the what people have been calling in. And my name is Chris. You guys can follow me at Come Out Better, Chris O'Brien. That's my abbreviation, COB. That's what Come Out Better is, Cobb. So not many people know that. Like, where'd that name come from? Grow up here in California. I'm here in Southern California. Grew up in Orange County, and I was an athlete, played college ball. I was a professional athlete. I played about a year in Mexico. After I graduated, played in Mexico, or before I played in Mexico, I did a finance job. So pretty much, immersed myself in the full matrix, got the programming, got all the, societal expectations, resumes, accolades. I was so blessed to be born and raised by an amazing family too. My father, my mother, really a very, very close-knit group of people in my life. And then just as things happen, you go through things, you wake up. And my first awakening, I guess you could say I had multiple ones, was after 2016. I was coming back from Mexico, and the last month I got really sick. And you're talking like stuff that I did not think I'd ever experience until I was older. I had ulcerative colitis of my stomach. I had acid reflux. I had eczema. I had hay fever allergies, bad inflammation, scar tissue from sprains, broken bones, surgeries, dislocations, horrible anxiety, coping it with different methods that probably weren't the best. And it was crazy because every day it was like, what medication am I going to take to subdue the allergy, subdue the hangover, subdue the pain, the inflammation, the NyQuil to sleep. And I just thought that was normal. Pepto-Bismol with every meal. It is what it is. And it was funky. I mean, it was, I had the health of, I don't even know how old a person would be at 25. And so that was my first awakening, how powerful our health and how important it really is. Obviously, as we wake up to what we've been told and lied to about, and what we've been manipulated on with our health, for example, the number one thing, you want to start taking your power back. So then I started my journey with water. And I know when you were sharing the water stuff, it really resonates with me, because that's really what I've become, a really like a water junkie, and really learning about hydration. So I changed the water I was drinking. Long story short, a lot of those things started to disappear within weeks. It was a very specific kind of water that I choose to drink, which maybe we'll touch on. And then ever since, it just started pulling layers back, and I was doing an entrepreneur mindset. I was trying different companies, different businesses, failing left and right, no go, no go, no go. You name it, just kind of everything that you would think to find a way to make an impact, to create abundance, just kept striking out. And then that finally led to my actual spiritual awakening in 2017, which is an out-of-body experience. And remember, this is coming from a guy that had no idea about anything outside of what society has ever told us. And it was after a night going out with friends, I wake up and I'm literally out of my body on my roof looking down, and for 3 hours had no clue what was even happening, and came back into my body. A voice, I guess you could say, not a man, not a woman, not even like as if you're listening, kind of like you're listening now. It was like I was reading a screen, just a voice that I've never heard or felt before. And it was just starting to tell me all these things about healing, detox, alkaline, acid, CBD, plant medicine, pharmaceutical. I'm like, what is it? Like, where did this all come from? And then that's where I started going down the different, watering holes, call them rabbit holes, water holes, a little bit more gentle water holes of health and wellness, big pharma, chemo. And I'm like, why am I learning this? And then my dad gets diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia a couple months later. And that was a whole nother experience in itself. And there's so many other things that have happened, but long story short, came from, an Orange County basic upbringing, sports, try to go the 9-to-5 employee, entrepreneur, health awakening, spiritual awakening. And now where I'm getting to is just like a financial awakening, which I know many people here in the world are waking up to now with what's happened with our systems, and all that crashing and burning and coming out better, and then teaching and showing people how to come out better while going through a lot of these things. So, I say I'm going to write a book one day. For now, that's enough to get started, I'll say.
Yeah, for sure, man. Absolutely. And that's a hell of an intro, because I feel like for most people, this doesn't start with, learning about government corruption or learning about the cults or any of the druids or the Illuminati or the Knights Templar. It doesn't start with any of this, right? Typically it starts with your health.
Yeah.
There's something about when your health, the one thing that makes everything else possible, when that starts to dwindle away, all of a sudden there's this, it's almost like a panic state, but it's probably the most enlightened state you've ever reached, because now you're truly searching for answers. You're vulnerable to a new degree now you're willing to take on information that you never were. And I
Yeah.
think that is the process of awakening. So when
Yeah.
you, for yourself, for instance, let's start a little bit with all of these, medications that you were taking, and how this, was affecting the body. And let's go through these systems, and kind of, you're taking one thing for sleep, you're taking one thing to stay awake, one thing to function, and then one to
Yeah.
counterbalance this one. And let's talk about the effects of all of these things on, our mind, body, spirit, and psyche.
Yeah, yeah, man. It was so normal for me growing up, and my father knew what he knew best. You've got a tummy ache, you take a Zantac, you take a Pepto Bismol, you take an antacid, you take a Tums. You've got joint pain or your aches or you're sore from working out, pop a Tylenol or take some ibuprofen. And it was just what it's, I call it the game of telephone, is what pharmaceuticals have been passed
Mm,
down ever since, the Flexner report, which I always love to share on that healing web. Is back in 1910, there was a report done, and it basically, in layman terms, it outlawed and outridden, like completely abolished and labeled it quackery, anything holistic in the medical industry. And that's frequency medicine, sound healing, homeopathy, holistic remedies, herbalism, detoxification, like to a point where, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone listening too, that even the medical schools don't even teach about certain systems in our body. The lymphatic system. Normally
mm-hmm.
people don't even know we have one. And
Yep.
yet they're more worried about taking the trash out and, their toilets getting clogged than their own lymphatic system, the endocannabinoid system, not even in any textbooks. So imagine like having something like a home that you buy, yet you didn't know there's certain rooms in it. You didn't know there were certain like trap doors, and that's where all like the magic can happen. So that's where it started so long ago. Yet here we have a game of telephone that pharmaceuticals then tell officials, then they tell the nurses, then the doctors, and no one questions it, right? It's just, oh, this is the way to do it. And then here we're told, even through our parents, hey, take these medications like allergies, taking Allegra, for example, just literally stuff that if I didn't take, it would have been a horrible day. And it's so wild because you asked me this, like I have flashbacks. It was so, I would literally show off my medications
Mm-hmm.
like to friends,
Yeah.
like, oh, I got you. Come on, come into my cabinet. You got a stuffy nose here. Take this. That was literally, that's what I thought was the way to do it. And little did I know the side effects. Little did I know that 98%, I never say 100, I say 99% or more of these medications, whether it's prescription pharmaceuticals, whether it's over the counter drugs, which in my opinion are even some of the most dangerous because anybody can get them
Yep.
anytime, anywhere. You walk
Mm-hmm.
into a Walgreens or CVS, there they are. How much of these medications are, one, made out of petrochemicals, so like a petroleum based pseudochemical that 80%, I believe, or more of these pharmaceuticals over the counter prescription come from
Yep.
China, and we have no clue the factory, no clue the manufacturing, no clue the shipping. So we're getting all of this stuff imported because we've eliminated this through the 1910 Flexner report, and where the American Medical Association was then birthed and all that stuff. And then we're taking these things, and then you start to learn that 98% of these medications aren't even recognized by the human body. And so you have this whole placebo effect that they talk about, where you take a sugar pill or you take pill and you believe it works, so it does, but little do they tell you the side effects of it. So imagine taking these medications like I was doing, or my father and other people, and as much as you think it's helping, it's going through your whole system, not being absorbed, and then it eventually gets lodged in your brain,
Yep.
or then it gets lodged in your liver, for example, or your kidneys. And then this stuff starts to back up. And then this backing up process, just like your toilet would be clogged,
Mm-hmm.
which we find a plumber right away. Heaven forbid we go a day without a clogged toilet. yet our system starts backing up, and now you have these symptoms of over what is the word, it's like what you don't eliminate you accumulate. That's
Mhm.
like a very big thing I talk about with health and wellness, because we're so prone to what am I putting in, what food am I eating. I tell people, hey, what are you getting rid of? What are you
Mhm.
getting out of your system that's been there
Right.
for so long? So these medications over the counter, they leave these residues, like these sulfur residues, like orange plaque that I was literally passing when I was detoxing after I had my colitis. These different things like sulfur compounds, carbonic acids, and it gets stuck in our system. It coagulates our blood, it stagnates our lymph system, it gets, stones in our kidneys, it gets mucoid plaque in our gut. And I tell people this, it's like right now we're not really, it's not a war of like bullets and guns right away where we're dying instantly. It's like these slow little drops of poison that we take
Mhm.
every day. Like,
Mhm.
so it's just one Tylenol, it's just one Tums. And it's not one Tums ain't gonna hurt you. It's consistently doing it day by day, month by month, year after year. And to think of how many people, including myself, depended on these things, and how many people I knew were taking them. When the doctor finally said, hey, Chris, for your colitis, you've got pretty much one or two options. One, diet and certain food restrictions for life. You can't eat this, you can't eat that. And I'm a foodie. I love food. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then two, you got to be on this antibiotic for life. I mean, they add for life. And I'm thinking, holy crap, I'm 25. That's 75 years of medication.
Mhm.
And that was kind of like a slap in the face. So to answer your question again, yeah, these things that we take that are chemical based, petro based, that we don't know what's in them. We don't even know the efficiency and how many lawsuits and billions of dollars big pharma and lobbyists and what they go through, and none of it's disclosed. And there's warnings on everything, right? It's like the pharmaceutical commercials. Hey, warning. And they go really fast. You can die
Mhm.
from stroke, heart attack, mild depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. Check your doctor before starting. And then they have a dog jumping through the rainbow. And it really is psychological. It's psychological manipulation. They don't tell you the side effects. They don't tell you what happens when it accumulates and how we don't absorb it.
Right.
And then they expect you to keep coming back for more, because now you got to have a pill for a pill and a pill for
Mhm.
another pill. So I mean, it's a sick cycle, pun intended. And we're here to break that and change that. And it's very unfortunate because so many people don't know this information until they find it for themselves. And I just pray they find it sooner than later. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a kind of what I've experienced seeing medications, especially from using them so much in my life, and what it led to a lot of my health issues, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, guilty as charged as well. I mean, it's
Yeah.
something that, was our parents' culture, and
Yeah.
it was quite literally ingrained in the culture. Like everybody
Yep.
believed, genuinely believed that this is just what you do. I mean, you're supposed to just get rid of the symptom. That's
Yep.
it. The symptom is terrible. And then when you talk about the petrochemicals, and why does everybody that's listening think that petrochemicals, are in these products? Why is that? Well, I'll give you a little tidbit of information. It's because
Yeah.
when you look at something like germ theory was based off of them trying to get rid of a bacterial culture that was inside a cow's milk with petroleum chemicals. And what they
Wow.
saw was that, oh, well, we're killing the bacteria with this petroleum. Now, if you see something that has a lot of bacteria, like say you get a splinter in your finger, well, there's going to be pus. And they say, well, the pus is the issue. That's the infection. No, no. The pus is the
Wow.
body's reaction to the trauma that has just happened. That is the symptom. The problem is the splinter. It's not the
Mm.
pus. But what we've
Mm.
learned is to treat the pus. Just keep treating the pus. Don't worry about the splinter. And you could use that as an analogy for your health. I mean, don't worry about the root cause, Chris. Don't just, you're
Yeah.
fine, man. Let me just give you this pill. Don't worry. Stomach hurts. You just take this. Never mind, all of the processed box foods that you're eating. Never mind the fact that you can't pronounce a single ingredient on the back of the box. Just keep packing. It's not that. Don't worry about it. That's all FDA approved. This is all, Health Canada approved, and this has gone
Yeah.
through the food agencies, and it's all safe. Don't worry about it. You're good. What you need to do is just take these pills. We need to
Yeah.
get rid of how you're feeling, because how you're feeling is everything, right?
Mm.
But they teach you to mask how you're feeling. And we live in a society where people don't even know how they feel anymore, dude. They're given these medications that are just synthetic emotions, and people don't know why they feel the way they feel. Right? Well, you feel the way you feel because you're not well. and you're not well. Why? Because you're constantly following the rules and guidelines of a system that is quite literally birthed and maintained to destroy you at the
Yeah.
very core of your existence. They're designed to just break you down as a human being. And once you learn to eliminate those and start taking in something simple as clean water,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it. Dude, as a kid, we always grab water from the tap. We would play as kids, and someone's parents would have the hose at the front of the house, and we'd all be drinking out of that thing, right?
The
And
fountain of youth. Yeah.
right. Yeah, if that's what we're calling it, then fucking all right, man.
Right.
But we're drinking that water, and I guess when you're young, you're a lot more resilient than you are as you start to
Yeah.
age. But the point being, man, like we did that kind of thing without our parents even hesitating. It was fine. Our parents didn't know enough to, put two and two together as to why sickness is on the rise.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, and we could sit here for hours getting on about childhood vaccination and all
Yeah.
this craziness that we've decided to throw into our bodies. But
Hmm.
you also said that the one thing that you changed first and foremost was the water.
Yeah.
Now, what were some of the things that you noticed the moment that you started doing, the water revamp, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I mean, shoot, right away. One, I noticed that most water people drink, they tend to complain because it's hard to drink a lot of it. Or like you drink a gallon of water and you feel like you have a water baby. It's like bloated, you're sloshy, and a lot of people don't like drinking water because it's tasteless. It's boring. There's no bubbles, there's no flavors. And that was kind of me. So I always added stuff, or I loved Gatorade and all these things. So when I was diagnosed with colitis, ulcerative colitis, which is ulcers of the colon, it probably was from so many medications that
Yeah.
wreaks havoc on your gut.
Mm-hmm.
And that the gut's the second brain, that's your
Yep.
other immune system. And so when that you said it best, it's like the slow breakdown. It's like the wall behind you. Instead of trying to clobber the whole brick wall down like
Mm-hmm.
World War II did to people, they were trying to take brick by brick from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so as that started being eliminated from my body, yeah, these symptoms manifested,
Right.
colitis, ulcers of the colon, acid reflux, were to a point where I couldn't eat unless I took a medication, eczema, hay fever, allergies that made me bedridden. So it got to a point where I was very close-minded because, you talk to the average person, hey, water may help you. Like, well, I drank water my whole life. If it did help me, I wouldn't be like this. And that's like a common answer I used to get years ago when
Mm-hmm.
I started sharing this with people. Because
Right.
it's like I call it the purple pill, and I'll explain why in a second. It's not a red pill, it's not a blue, it's like a purple pill. It's the health pill. And it's like something you start realizing that even the most basic thing, breathing oxygen, which we all do, we're doing it now, we're doing it for the rest of our life, and drinking water. Like, I don't know many people who can go days consistently without having water in their system. You can do food for weeks, months, you can fast all day. When it comes to oxygen and water, those are the two most important things that require us to actually stay alive. Why don't we know more about this? And that was like the first, like, oh, okay, this is interesting. The very thing we do every day is the very two things that we're least educated about. Nobody knows how to breathe properly. Very few people do. And then when they say, oh, belly breathe or breath of fire, it's like they're considered crazy. So with water, when I started drinking this new kind of water, it comes from an ionizer, and it's a medical grade ionizer that's from Japan. And Japan is probably one of the healthiest countries in the world. They have the best manufacturer. It's like Japan just has the best of everything. And that's been around for decades. Since 1974, this water's been around. And this water technology, this principle has been used in hospitals in Japan, in Germany, in Russia, in Korea. It wasn't adopted by the Western world. And we know why, because we're so pharmaceutical based. It's like Eastern medicine with acupuncture, Chinese medicine. All these concepts were so new to me as I started learning about the history of it over time. And then as I started drinking this water, it's got certain properties that mimic healing waters of the world. So if you actually travel to certain areas of the world, you can actually fill up water and bathe in it. And there's properties, and this is all, written, researched, it's out there, Lourdes, France, Telacote, Mexico, the Hunza Valley, glacier water, and it has these properties. And these properties help put the body back into what I call homeostasis, right? Where the body's in balance, where the body can, as you know, we're the best healers. We can heal ourselves, not dependent on medications, if we have the right building blocks, materials, and water, enough hydration, because our body's 72% water. Our bodies are 99% water at the molecular level. And so, again, if you're losing just basic logic, basic common sense, we are not broccoli. We are not, chicken breast. We are not even we're not those things. We are literally living water beings.
Yeah.
And I put the wrong water in my body the whole time. So as I started drinking the water, within minutes, I felt like a rush to my head, like as if my body got water for the first time. You're out in the desert, you're stranded in the desert, and there's like a drop of water, and you taste it, and you like come to life. It's like that was the feeling. And then I drank a gallon of it in a day, which you do detox. And usually you start out slow because there is a detox effect. Because imagine flushing your toilet finally for the first time. And at the time, I was very sick, like I was mentioning. And after about a couple gallons, I'd say about my second or third gallon, I had bowel movements. And I'll spare you the details. The stuff that came out of me would make you run. It was crazy. Colors, shapes, sizes, stuff that has probably been in me since childhood was eliminating. Parasites were coming out of me. And then my skin started to clear up. And then the second night, I actually slept 13 hours straight. I slept through 4 alarms. I missed my workouts. I'd never slept that deep. Because again, when you have the right kind of water, there's something in the brain, which I know you're familiar with too, is the blood-brain barrier. And there's only certain things that can get past that barrier because yeah, they're here to get us slowly. And they're also, their goal is to get into this brain to control it and to hijack and manipulate it. And if you can get metals and, residue, pharmaceuticals, I'll spare you the other things. The things that are in the jabs are meant to open up the blood-brain barrier. My body, my brain, for the first time, actually got water where it's supposed to go. And that's where things started to flush out, brain fog, anxiety. I mean, I was still partying at the time. Hangovers had disappeared. It was crazy. And all I did was change the water I was drinking. Still was eating the same diet, probably not the best lifestyle at the time. I was still pissed off that I was sick, blaming myself. And my allergies had disappeared. Like I could be around cats again. Like my skin cleared up. I had probably lost, Derek, like 15 pounds, not of fat, of waste, just inflammation and waste from, and then sweating it out. And I haven't looked back. I mean, it's very rare I touch anything else now that I know what I know. I got rid of all the Gatorade crap. I got rid of the Propels, the Powerades, the vitamin waters, smart waters, like all that stuff, carbonated drinks. And if I do have any of that, it's very particular and specific. It's been 6 years now. I haven't been sick once. I don't go to the doctor. Like I feel incredible. It's crazy to repeat it because I forget these things and I know people go through them a lot, and you bring forth, hey, what about water? And it's just, again, it's like a purple pill. It's getting them to see that water can be one of two things. Last thing I'll say, one, it can literally be the slowest form of poison. I know I'm saying this word again. It's not to scare you. Look what's happening in the chemical spills. Look what just happened in Philadelphia. I don't know if you saw, there 1.5 million people got a text yesterday saying, do not drink any tap water. Do not touch anything, only bottled water. All bottled water has almost been sold out. We've got people like literally reporting to us like, hey, I need one of these ionizers now because I can't get water at my local store. And that's Pennsylvania with almost 2 million people. So it's happening, and it can either be a slow form of poison with all the chemicals, chlorine, fluorides, pharmaceuticals, unstructured, acidic, inflammatory water. That's what most of us are drinking. Or it can be the slowest form of medicine, right? Healing properties that bring hydration, structure, antioxidants, alkaline minerals, flush the body of waste, raise the cellular voltage, get the body back in balance, doesn't make you alkaline and all that misinformation. It just gets your body back in balance where the body can heal itself. And that's why I'm such an advocate of it, of such a advocate of proper hydration and education, because of what it did for me. And I could sit here do for like 3 days straight and tell you every story I've heard just from people changing the water that they're drinking. Truly phenomenal, truly phenomenal. And that was, that was my experience. That was profound. And I just haven't looked back, and I'm on a mission to share that with the world, So yeah, it's been pretty incredible to wake up to water.
Absolutely, man. Water is, I think it's just one of those, like you're saying, right? One of the small little minute details, and nobody's saying that you have to go out and buy the water ionizer that you're
Mm.
speaking of. I mean, you can make basic changes. It's
Mm-hmm.
like just for our house, for instance, I started off with just a Santivia water top filter, but then I was like, okay, I'm still putting tap water into this thing and filtering it. So let's get rid of that. Let's go to reverse osmosis. And
Yep.
now we get reverse osmosis water that I put mineral rocks into the
Good.
water so that
Good.
as it's filtering back out, I'm remineralizing it because, people don't know that reverse osmosis, yes, it's getting rid of 99.9% of everything. That means everything, all the minerals in the water.
Yes.
It's almost dead. So you're not
Yes.
really hydrating. So you'll find yourself drinking a ton of it and still
Mm-hmm.
just thirsty all day. The moment that you remineralize the water, or you can, take your favorite sea salt or Himalayan salt or, whatever you want to remineralize yourself. But I think people get a little intimidated by that, like, oh my God, I can't afford one of these water ionizers. They're so expensive, and they're not looking
Yeah.
at the investment versus health. Or some
Yes.
people just simply can't afford it. And
Yeah.
I get it. And reverse osmosis water, for those who don't know, man, you can go to any water depot anywhere. There's one every like 10 city square blocks. And I believe it's like $50 for here, it's $50 for 25 5-gallon refills. So
Wow.
it's super
Awesome.
cost efficient.
Perfect.
It's just one of those little ways where you can keep your family safe. And what you're
Yes.
saying too, I want to touch on that blood-brain barrier. I want
Yeah.
you guys to know that there's not many things in the world that can cross that blood-brain barrier. Like, it's a barrier for a reason. Now, water being one of them, and the other one being it's called shikmic acid. You can find it in like white
Mm.
pine, star anise is another form of it, and it's something that we sell at Yorko, because I also own a holistics business. When the whole program started over the last 3 years, we decided to open up a holistics business that can truly take all the chemicals out of everything, give people,
Wow.
soap and deodorants and white pine tincture to detox from the jab.
Wow.
Try to help people out in a real way.
Yes.
And we can get into the, why they had the white pine beetles all across North America a few years ago before this.
Wow.
We can get into why these things happen and the synchronicities and that slow
Mm.
drip to try to knock us off course. But
Wow.
I think that if you guys can, man, start to get into water. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, as soon as I swapped water and stopped drinking caffeine, that was one of
Mm.
the biggest things. I got rid of caffeine and sugar I'd say about 8 weeks ago now. A little over
Wow.
8 weeks, so a little over 2 months. And I felt good before,
Yeah.
but I feel incredible now.
Yeah.
Right, because now I'm not getting that giant, spike in the morning of caffeine to get me going. Like, I gave my adrenals a chance to finally, wake themselves up. I get my circadian rhythm back. Nothing's, altering it. Then sugar, man, that white poison.
Yep.
I don't know how much more we can drill it home to people, man, that sugar is the root of all evil. Like they say it's money, I would argue that it's sugar. It's like a
Yeah.
synthetic trash, and not all sugars are equal. I'm sure you
Yeah.
know this. Not
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
sugars are even close to equal, but you
Yeah.
know, if you're getting rid of caffeine, sugars, and guys, if you guys can't afford a water ionizer, even reverse osmosis water seems daunting to you, go out, get yourself some quality coconut water.
Yes.
Buy it, make sure that it's, at least a quality brand of coconut water, then at least you can get something that will hydrate you. And you notice you drink a cup of coconut water is the equivalent to how many cups of water. Because if I drink a small thing of coconut water, dude, I'm hydrated for hours.
Yeah.
Feel phenomenal. And what do you think about people that do something like that, where they would, stick away from the water and strictly drink coconut water? Because there's a lot of people that do that around the world. And what do you think
Yeah.
about something like that?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And it's good how you broke it down. And I always tell them set goals, whether it's an ionizer or a system, a house filter. And yes, it does take an investment, and there are ways. Meet yourself where you're at. We always say do the best you can with what
Yep.
you have with where you're at. Right. And even if you don't even have coconut water and you find a way just to get a simple filter or a local spring, you can put, like he said, like some sea salt, squeeze some lemon in there, and shoot, we can even talk about this as a whole nother conversation, is literally speaking life into your water. I know you did a post about
Yes.
that with Mr.
Let's do
Remoto.
it.
So that's a whole nother, like, it could be hours of water talk. And it's like, wow, I never knew water could be so amazing. Well, yeah, it's everything, guys. It truly is everything. So coconut water is incredible. Obviously, the fresh coconut, the baby coconuts, whether they're from Thailand, those are incredible. And if you don't have access to it, whatever you can find at the local health store, obviously organic. And that is a great starting point because it does have those essential electrolytes. It does have some of those essential minerals. And sometimes, like you were saying, Eric, like a lot of people's bodies, again, back to the pharmaceuticals, what they do is they strip our bodies of minerals.
Yes.
And we're so like hyper focused on vitamins, which is important. Yes, it's all part of, you got to remember, guys, it's not this or that. There's pieces of a puzzle, and no puzzle
Mhm.
looks pretty when there's pieces missing. And what we're saying is sometimes there's big pieces that are missing, and you're trying to figure out why your puzzle feels so off. So mineralizing your water, getting basic, sea salts, coconut water, but this demineralization of our air, of our soil, of our plants, of our food, of our animals, of our water, it's the root of everything. He was saying root cause. There's also a root start, right? A root cause and effect. And if we don't have these minerals in our system, that's why coconut water is amazing. These Celtic sea salts, pink Himalayan salts, and getting it organic and cleanly sourced, that does give your body the ability to absorb more until you get the structured water, the ionized water, because that helps entirely as well. So meet yourself where you're at. You've got to accept where you're at in your journey, create a plan to get to the next step in your evolution, whether it's through water or certain foods, going, from local grocery stores to organic. That's a jump for people.
Mhm.
Going local stores to farmers markets and driving an extra 20 minutes. That's a jump for people. And we're just saying, meet yourself where you're at, do what you can.
Yeah.
Coconut water is incredible. Lemon in your water is awesome. Speaking life into your water, even putting your water out in the sun and charging it up a little bit's amazing too. And then eventually you build up that tolerance and you build up that strength. And like you said too, man, especially of caffeine. I mean, I could sit here for another hour with you and just
Mhm.
talk about what caffeine does to the brain. And it's because I used to drink that stuff also, and I just didn't think anything of it. And sugar too, not only do they stimulate you, they put you in fight or flight.
Right.
They make you release all sorts of hormones and chemicals because we all have our own pharmacy inside, just like we go out to people's pharmacies out there. We have our own pharmacy of chemicals, guys. We have vasopressin, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. And if we don't know how to access these things, we're going to look to something outside of us to get that same feeling and reward. We're going to go outside to get that caffeine, to get that spike, right? That focus, and then that crash,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
that sugar, right? Which is like legalized cocaine. Literally, it's
Yeah.
just the
Yeah, yeah.
same shape, the same color. It's like you won't even know the difference. And what
100%.
it does to the body is truly wild, because we're last thing I'll say too is like we love the get rich quick mentality, and we love the feel good now mentality. And
Yeah.
once that's gone, we want more of it, and we want more of it, and
Mhm.
we keep wanting more of it. And the more we want more of it and the less we get it, the more anxious and depressed we become.
Mhm.
And caffeine would get me so anxious,
Dude.
so anxious. And I feel like I'd have a sugar bomb of donuts and I would be depressed for days. And the only way to combat that depression was get another coffee so I can go forward. And then if I went too far forward, I had to come back so I'd have some donuts. It was crazy. Like it's crazy the cycles we put ourselves through.
Right.
But when you're hydrated, getting rid of the caffeine slowly. And a thing I'll say is, cold turkey, if you can, just baby steps. Just instead of a grande, get a half. And then the next week, get it down to a shot. And then after that, go without it. Make yourself slow changes, because sometimes when you go cold turkey on something, yeah, great, it comes back around and creeps pretty fast. So coconut
Mhm.
water is awesome. Those different waters, RO water, remineralize it. Make sure you guys do that. And then eventually, when you're ready and you make that happen, jump to the it's Kangen water is what I drink. You jump to that and see where you're at that time. So yeah, really, really good points, man. Those are all very important, especially for those that are awakening too.
Mhm.
Great switch you can make to have some instant results that can be long term as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to kind of touch on caffeine a little more, because I know it's that little demon that everybody kind of holds on
Yeah.
to. It's very ingrained in the culture.
Yeah.
Starbucks is one of the original companies, and there's a reason. If you guys, I actually want people here to look up the original Starbucks logo and
Mm-hmm.
realize that it's not this pretty little mermaid. It's actually a siren with her legs open, which is, talking about the consumption of society through this, snake piss. Right?
Wow.
It's and when you look at what's actually happening when you're intaking so much caffeine. I'll be honest with you, man. I drank caffeine forever from
Yeah.
young age. I remember my mom used to make me the red rose tea when I was in elementary school in the morning.
Wow.
I mean, they were just kind of like, yeah. So it was something that I've always had in my system.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered why. It doesn't matter how much I meditated, doesn't matter how much, grounding I did. There was never a point where I could truly and feel grounded. There was
Mm.
always that edge that I couldn't
Yeah.
get rid of. And then the
Yeah.
moment that I even thought about like, oh my God, I feel my heart pounding a little hard, instant anxiety. And now I'm thrown off all night. Now I
Wow.
can't sleep. So it's the moment I got rid of that, man, shit could be getting real stressful. And all I have to do is take a breath.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Gone. Right.
Mm.
So it's like, and then I recently took a sip of my wife's coffee because getting her to give up coffee is just a lost cause. There's some battles you will not win. And
Take a
I've
look at some of this stuff.
right, and I've accepted that. But I took a sip of it the other morning, and I was repulsed
Wow.
at how shitty it tasted because I was kind of like, it's weird how the body will kind of tell you automatically, like, whoa, we don't want this shit anymore. But there's that initial, process to getting there. And
Mm-hmm.
this actually, segues well into what I wanted to touch on is something that you spoke of, and that's the demonization of things. Now, this topic I think really needs to get covered, and I'm trying to cover this more with the people that I feel have the right mindset because there's a big community of truthers right now
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
are just sharing fear porn, and nobody's giving you solutions. Nobody's providing any tangible things that you can do. Nobody's giving you real information because at the end of the day, if it's real information, you're going to feel empowered when you hear it,
Yes.
not disenfranchised or cheated out of something or ran
Yeah.
over or, helpless. You're going to feel like you could do something. You'll feel like it's, back into your power and you have control because at the end of the day, you do.
Yes.
This whole concept of freedom that people are fighting for, let me give people a little hint.
Mm-hmm.
You're free already. Like just
Mm-hmm.
start living like it. That's where it starts. It literally starts with you just living like you're free. But what we see is people demonizing everything. Oh, well, you drink reverse osmosis, but the Kangen water's better, so you shouldn't be drinking that. That's trash. You should go to this. And oh well, you shouldn't drink coffee at all because and it's like, whoa, guys.
Yeah.
Well, if I wanted to have this conversation and I was really tired, well, then I could use the benefits of caffeine or nicotine at that point to provide me with what I needed in the moment, because anything in moderation is okay.
Yeah.
So what I think you and I should talk about is that demonization of fucking everything now, man. Like you have to your whole life, you cannot make one mistake,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you see that we demonize too much and have become problematic, even though there's solutions?
Yeah. Well, you one, the water, and we'll talk about that in a second. Two, food is a big one because you have just about every diet under the sun being out in the surface and open. And no matter what you eat, you could be plant-based one day and get attacked. You can be carnivore the next day and say you're killing yourself. You can be keto and next day you say, oh, you're going to have diabetes. You could just fast and people will say you're going to die of malnutrition. And that right there, I saw a really good thing, and I've heard this before, and you know this too. It's like it's not necessarily the X, Y, and Z, like the food that gets you sometimes. And I say sometimes, I keep it open for multiple perspectives, because if you say always, everything, all, people will take it as complete fact and nothing else. So I say
Mhm.
sometimes it's not the more so notion of, oh, I'm going to eat kale with all the oxalates and I'm going to die, or I'm going to get really sick, or my gut's going to tear up. It's the thought. It's these thoughts of this fear
Right.
is what is making people sick. So when someone's feeling amazing on a certain diet that they're having, and then they listen to someone that says, oh, if you're eating this, it's doing X, Y, and Z. And like you said, leave you hanging, no solutions, no backup, just a guy on Instagram or on TikTok. And next thing you know, you watch it, and that night you start getting a stomach ache, and you haven't had one in months. You've been perfectly fine. You feel incredible. But because you watched and you heard someone say, because you're eating this, you're going to have that. Guys, that's no different than what mainstream media has done. We're no different than mainstream media if we're just belting out everything that is wrong, everything that is incorrect, everything that is killing you and poisoning you, everything that is pessimism. You are causing more harm than even good.
Yeah.
And so that translates into water. That can translate into what you're watching. That can translate into where you live or who you hang around with. And we blanketed these statements that the notion of thinking that it's bad for us is literally causing more health issues than the actual things themselves. Right? It's like, oh, you're drinking out of the tap water one time because you're thirsty and you don't have your filters working. You're consuming pharmaceuticals. That's going to mess up your endocrine system. That's going to slow down your metabolism. And next thing you know, you keep repeating these loops because you go drink some caffeine, you start repeating these loops and you're all
Yep.
anxious. All of a
Yep.
sudden you go to the doctor, yeah, Chris, your hormones are off. And you're like, oh my gosh, it was that one glass of tap water. I knew it. I can't drink anything. And then now it's like, and we've got that with the whole lockdown. Everyone was so afraid to sneeze.
Right.
We're so afraid to like touch. We're so afraid to even live. I mean, if you're living in fear, that's one of the most slowest forms of poison, in my opinion, worse than any food out there, worse than any water out there. Because if you're perpetuating fear and guilt and anger and all of these low emotional things that come from demonizing everything, right? It's like you see people in the comments, well, shit, man, what the heck? What am I supposed to eat? What am I can't even use Q-tips because Q-tips have got like nanobots that are going into my ears. It's like every little thing we blanketed a label as if it's about to kill us and hurt us. Now, here's the thing. Somebody like, well, yeah, Chris, there are dangerous things. Yes,
Yeah.
I know. There's a lot of stuff that's trying to get us.
But
And there's a difference, right, between living in that fear-based mentality. And you said it perfectly. It's okay, I'm aware of this. What are my options to improve this? How does this make me feel? How am I discerning what others are saying compared to what I know is helpful for me? Because someone out there can say this water does XYZ for them, and someone out there can say, well, this water does XYZ for me. Who's right, who's wrong? And if you get rid of the who's right and who's wrong and what is best for all of us, because we're all very unique, we can start getting on the same page. So I always like to say, ask more questions instead of screaming more statements. And that's going to help stop demonizing just about everything under the sun. Because if we keep doing that, we're not progressing as much as it may sound like. Because we're shining light on darkness. Yeah, but you're shining light on darkness with a very aggressive light that is burning even more. And
right.
it's like just getting that notion across. So, anyways, for those that are like hearing this and you watch something, you read something, because I went through this process too. It's a part of the awakening. You're
Mm-hmm.
taking your power back, guys. You're realizing that not everyone outside of you has to make your decisions. They can leave clues, they can give you insights. Eric can share his experience with XYZ. Okay, I hear that. What's Chris's experience? Okay, I hear that. Now I'm going to make my decision. And this is what I know feels best. This is what I know works. And then I'm going to share that with people and let them choose for themselves. We've gotten away. You said such good points. We've gotten away from empowering each other.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, this whole demonizing thing is for like another hidden agenda to sell you their product. Oh, stop eating that so you eat what I'm eating. Here, buy it. And it's like there's all these little hidden agendas that are coming out
Yeah,
in
man.
humanity, right? All these little hidden agendas. And here we are talking about there's an agenda 2030. And then we're doing these little agendas yourself. So just be mindful. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it, be mindful. If you're hearing it, be mindful. And at the end of the day, whatever works for you, focus there. And if you see someone doing something, if they're drinking a bottled water, and you drink clean, reverse osmosis or Kangen water, they're not a bad person. That's their choice. As long as they're aware, as long as you say, hey, do you mind if I share some things I didn't know about that as well? I feel great, man. All right, all power to you. Instead of, oh, you're gonna get sick. You're drinking BPAs. You're stupid. You're a bad person. Because I see that. I see that in different niches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, yeah, it's very important, guys, because we're no different than mainstream media that only knows how to put out fear. And that's what literally limits people's ability to think for themselves, have any type of logic, make decisions, because we feel everything we do, decisions, logic, common sense, it's going to be out to get us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just playing in the hands of the devil. And that does not help anything whatsoever. So yeah, just be mindful. Very, very mindful.
Yeah, I actually To go to one of your points there, I was speaking to somebody today about a post that I made in my story. A friend of mine had shared her experience with a certain book,
Hmm.
and the book, I guess, was speaking about something that she was, passionate with. And she was just like holding the book up, kind of showing it, and it brought me back to me telling people, to go read, Pao Chang's Word Magic, and aggressively telling people to go do that. And then
Yeah.
I realized something when I was sitting there today, and
Mm.
shared it in my story, and that was, while you can derive a lot of great etymological information from there,
Hmm.
as you start to read the book, you realize that he has his own belief system and his own religious beliefs. And it's like, I need to be careful, because how many people are going to read this book and feel like they need to believe what he believes because he's the one that introduced them to new information?
True.
So it really made me think, like, we need to be aware of the tyranny of our own minds. And
Hmm.
Ayn Rand, a female philosopher, said this. She said, you could get rid of as much tyrannical government as you want, but you're still left with the tyranny of the masses.
Mm.
And that really, really hit home with me, because
Wow.
it's like, do we, in a sense, are our own masses, and we control, kind of the things that go into our body, what goes on around us. And I know people are like, oh, are you talking about manifesting? It's like, well, yeah, you can manifest like a motherfucker. It's just not this magical wand waving that you think it is.
Yeah.
But if you truly put your energy into something, you make that happen.
Yeah.
Manifestation is just basically how you choose to live your life. What frequency are you willing to ride? Like, picture life as a whole bunch of guitar strings, and you're looking down them like a Guitar Hero game, and you're choosing what frequency and which string you decide that you want to ride. Now, you can go to the lower, pitches, and
Yeah.
ride there, and everything can go bad for you, or you can choose to be kind of service to others and do better for your physical health, and start to, share positivity. And all of a sudden, it's like wealth starts coming your way. All you start meeting amazing people. You start to have these synchronicities with those that you align with, that are on that same frequency, people that you never would have thought that you could develop a relationship with before. And what you're saying about the food is so important, man. And I
Yeah.
don't know why this is rocket science to people, but I need it to be driven home. And that's, the best cure for you is the one you believe in,
Hmm. Mm.
regardless of what it is. Like, you could say, oh,
Yeah.
well, keto, or vegetarian, or somebody who takes pharmaceuticals, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, if you believe to your core that it's working,
Yeah.
regardless of how bad it is for you, to some extent, it's
Yeah.
going to work.
Wow.
Why? Because the power of the mind is more powerful than anything else
Wow.
that is ever given to you outside. So, what you're saying
Mm.
about speaking to water, speaking to food, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know how many more studies need to be done where somebody's telling water that they love it, and the water is structuring itself to be way more comprehensive to the human body. That's
Yeah.
just kind of the way it is. And if you're going to constantly say, like, that glass of tap water you're speaking about, like, oh man, now I've drank it, that must have been what gave me that stomach. The more you think that it's going to, or you can empower yourself and say, look, I don't have what's best for me, but I still need to hydrate. This is
Yep.
what's available. And I know my body is this fucking miraculous machine with
Sure
the
is.
ability to detox damn near anything. The
Facts.
capabilities, dude, we have like a little mini army inside of us of these killer T cells that go around to cells that could be potentially hazardous, and just, Fauci them, gone. You know what I mean?
Facts. That's a quote. That's a quote of the podcast right there. Yes.
Right. So
Facts.
it's kind of like, man, what people
Yeah.
believe, man, the placebo effect is so powerful,
Yeah.
so powerful. And I actually
Wow.
want to talk to you a little bit about the last 3 years without getting too
Yeah.
deep in the waters, because I feel like there's too many
Yeah.
platforms being built off of the back of this fear of what's going to come next, and
Sure.
instead of the now. So
Yep.
what do you think over the last 3 years has been the most empowering and disempowering moments for people?
Man. Well, the most empowering, I would say, well, let's start with the disempowering, the what isn't. I like to say what isn't and what is. And yeah, like you were saying too, just to tie on to what you just said, your belief, whether it's good or bad in someone else's lens, the mind is the most powerful thing. And it's like, the tyrannical government, even if you got rid of it, we have still have the minds of the masses. And so in a way, like, did we create this government with our minds? Did we subdue all of this? So when you go back to like disempowering, well, I would say the biggest way that we've been disempowered is that we have given up our right of free will, of choice. Choice is the best thing. Even when you're born, you know, you can go back to even when you're a child. Yes, you had your parents to help you if you were born and raised that way. You had choices though, and most of the time as a kid, you weren't really conscious of them. There was an unconscious power guiding your choices, like don't go near that fireplace. You weren't really processing that as a 2-year-old. There was just like an instinct, an inner guidance that said no. So choice is something that wherever you're at today, and I like you bring up the present moment because it's a place that not many people live or stay or have ever been to, you know, let alone for a few seconds. The person and place, bank account, your health, whatever it is that you're at in this moment on the end of March in 2023, it's an accumulation of the, I'd say billions, maybe I don't even know how many, you can't even count, choices that you have made your whole life, good or bad, well, however you want to interpret it. And so the moment the last 3 years back in 2020, it was crazy. It's already been 3 years, just to even think about the moment that we let the external influence the internal more than vice versa, right? Where you have life happen to you, where you have life, where you're a victim, where you're drifting and you're lost at sea, and you know things happen, you get hit with the wave. Oh, it's just what it is, the way it is. When we lost our ability to choose and stand up for ourselves and literally make choices based on our own logic, based on our own intuition, based on our own inner voice, our inner world, that inner guidance, that's when you really disempowered humanity. And the best part of it, though, because with every dip, there's a rise, right? With every setback, there's a comeback. That's just the law of the universe with the polarities and correspondence. When we're disempowered that much, you now have people that are stepping out of that, coming out better, rising from the ashes, and truly finding a sense of empowerment where, hold on, I don't have to rely on a 3-letter agency that I have no clue about and doesn't know me to make decisions about me and my children. I don't have to rely on some guy in DC who's got a PhD about X, Y, and Z to tell me how my immune system should function. And I can go down the list without getting into detail. So as much as the most disempowering thing we've experienced, because there could be many things, right? Many things, hard to pinpoint one. I would say the ability to choose for yourself, to choose what you're going to do next in the moment, as much as disempowering that was, it's also allowed millions, in fact, in my opinion, billions, to have an internal wake-up call, to have an internal light bulb that finally came on, whether it's the pineal gland finally sparked, the heart finally skipped a beat, you know, the brain hemi-synced and opened up, and our energy centers aligned, whatever you want to call it, spiritual awakening, you guys name it what you want. When we're able to have that low of a low, there's only way up. There's only one way out, and that's up, or that's out, and that's coming out better. And that's literally what I like to talk about. And so having empowerment through your choice, the action you take, the thoughts you have, the words you speak, the lifestyle you live, the choices you make, the people you talk to, the things that you share, all of that, as crazy as that sounds, all of that's in our control. We have that ability to do that. And that's some of the most empowering things that this world, in order to move forward in the right direction, we've got to have more people doing that compared to more people doing the opposite of it. These thoughts aren't mine. Oh, these words aren't mine. I'm just saying it because I heard it on a podcast. Or these actions aren't mine because my dad did it, and I'm just going to do what he told me. And if we keep getting caught in these loops, we're going to keep cycling and cycling instead of breaking that loop, right? You break out of that loop, and now you're able to create a new loop, a new reality, a new future for yourself. So yeah, just choice, just the ability to choose and think for yourself and have critical, logical thought, direction, and action that came from you, your core, your heart, your intuition, and your connection to God, instead of relying on man, agencies, governments, friends, family, jobs, businesses, society to do it for you. And that's just a part of this great awakening. And yeah, that's what I would say as far as disempowering and empowering. Yeah, great question. Great topic too.
Yeah, man. And with the present moment, I
Yeah.
don't think that there's enough emphasis put on that in the average person's life. I think that everybody's so concerned about, and it's all by design for you to worry about your next paycheck. So you need to make sure that you're going to work every day this week. How are you going to babysit the kids when you come
Mhm.
home? All the things you have to do. Like they've purposely made things with almost unobtainable goals to have you constantly focused on the next step and how am I going to get
Yeah.
there? What do I got to do to be there?
Yeah.
But we need to kind of recognize that present moment and how important that is. Not only will it make you a lot more productive, it'll definitely increase production when you kind of slow down time because now you're being present.
Yeah.
Think about the word itself. Present. It's a gift. It's the gift given to us, the present.
Yes.
There's a reason that English is so highly manipulated, but evil is not the only force at work here.
Mm.
Everything has a duality. It's like the word, present. You can take that and say, well, it's the present moment or it's the present. It's a gift, right? So we need to start. People these days know the price of everything and the value of nothing,
Yeah.
right? So we need to start to learn that price is just the numerical, kind of number given to items and things. And, the value is what you can truly derive from these things and apply to your life. So I
Yeah.
guess briefly, I want you to just give a little bit, we're just going to touch on the current state of the financial system
Yeah.
and kind of options for people in that realm.
I had to write that down what you said. People know the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Yeah, man.
That was gold. Thank you.
It works.
That was awesome. Because I get it too. It's like, and perfect segue because the words, I can't afford this, even something like organic or like something that can be a little bit better for you or just worth it investing in yourself. It's like we're so fixated on what it costs me instead of how it's gonna help me.
Right.
We're so fixated on what I'm losing instead of what I'm gaining. It's like, all right, invest $100 to gain the skills to help you make $10,000. And you can ask a bunch of people that, and many won't put in $100, even if they know that they could learn skills to make $10,000 so they never have to think about money. And it's such a paradox. It's such a great point you brought up because our brains like to do the opposite and like to make it hard when it can be easy. So what can people do right now? And it's a tough question to ask in summary. And it's also a good question to start because I use this on another podcast I did recently in a live I talk about, and it's the car analogy that, we have a car that we drive. I got my truck in the driveway and a lot of us get into our car and what do? We turn on the ignition, the car starts and we hit the gas and we're off. Right? Pretty simple. Why is that so easy for people to do? It's because they trust the car is going to work. They trust the car is going to turn on. They trust the gas is going to work because, Toyota made it or Nissan, not me. They trust that the GPS will get them to the Starbucks to get their coffee, right?
Yep.
They trust that it'll work. And no one, anyone really ever says, how does my car work? Like, where does the gas go? How does the battery work? And that's kind of what we've gotten to with our financial system. We work very hard to make money and we don't know where the money comes from. We work very hard to have a salary and then we put it in our bank and we don't know what it's doing in the bank. So when you start looking at our financial system, one of the best things you can learn right away, because there's a saying it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire, and if you don't have wisdom, the millions will be gone as fast as it came. If you don't have that financial literacy, that's why they say, lottery winners go bankrupt in 3 months. They'll win millions and millions of dollars and they'll go bankrupt because they don't have the literacy, the financial education, or just this awareness of what to do with that amount of energy. So start learning how our system works. And what's wild is we're leaving this current system, right? So as much as you learn about it, there's a new system being birthed parallel to our current system. We're on a very old school petro fiat dollar right here, this piece of paper. This is what literally, like you said, root of all evil. And it can also be the root of all creation, depending how you use it. We've given our life for it. We've given our health for it. And a lot of people are struggling to keep up making it. And as soon as we make it, we get rid of it. And we're not taught this financial literacy because, the Rockefeller education, they want that quote, a nation of workers. not thinkers. They don't want you to think how this works. They don't want you to think about where did this come from, or what is the value, or what's this purchasing power. So your education is so important. So important. So whether it's just starting out, there's great documentaries. We're spoiled to live in a world with these smartphones that we can access information at the drop of a pin. I don't know if you've seen this, Eric. There's a really good 10-part series on YouTube called The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. I don't know if you've ever watched it or heard of it, or any of your audience. Check it out. When you watch episode 1, you will learn more in 30 minutes than probably 3 years of diving in. The guy does a great job in layman terms, where you learn about currency, what money is, how banks started, how we went off gold, how our dollar is losing its purchasing power. And in 10 episodes, guys, you will learn more than probably 98% of planet Earth about money and how it moves and how it operates. So start with education. And then the second thing I would say is, given the states of the world that we're in, and from the bank runs, interest rates, inflation, there's something called a BRICS alliance, which is, there's countries, you guys, that are literally creating an alliance right now. As me and Eric are talking, they're talking way more, and they're creating this global alliance to dethrone this dollar, because they're not going to be using this monopoly anymore, because they're not going to be using it to trade oil, to trade goods, to commodities. So there's a new standard forming, and it's going to be backed by gold. This is all proven. This is all set in stone. So what does that mean for me, Chris? I live in Canada, or I live in, I have pesos, or I have dollars. Again, start with your basic education, and you can learn this in a day. A couple hours, if you can create some time, it's worth it. Like Eric said, you can know the price of everything and not the value of nothing. This is very valuable, and you don't have to pay for it. $0. You can get it for free on YouTube and learn this stuff and get your education going, and then ask yourself, how can I protect my wealth? Because the last part of it too is, you either have money coming in or money going out. Ideally, you would love to have more coming in than going out. That's how you can build your wealth, just linear income wise, right? Usually trading your time for money. And then when you can create multiple streams, right? Instead of one hose, you've got multiple garden hoses, multiple fire hoses to put out the fire. And you create multiple income streams, you're going to now start saving money. And when you save money in the bank, you're technically losing it. And that's the paradox. All right. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. A great teacher I've learned a lot from is, he says savers are losers. And now the scariest part, though, is the money that we're saving, if I'm holding on to it and it's going down, and for example, here in the US with inflation, it's going down in value. Here's a great thing you guys can say. Instead of working for money, how can I learn how money can work for me? And that's where you can put it in what's called assets, or you can invest it somewhere that is protected and safe. And my two favorite things right now is precious metals, because it holds the value.
Yep.
And the future that we're heading to is going to be very commodity driven. It'll be a gold standard. This is proven. And this would be another hours that we would do talks about this. This is just to get you guys started. And also, yes, as much as you may agree or disagree, I don't like crypto. We've been using crypto, guys, for years, guys, decades. Most of the money that circulates are numbers on a screen. There's not that much actual paper or tangible physical money that is going around the world. So we have been using crypto. It's just been unregulated. It's been manipulated. It's been completely altered and skewed. So just look at digital assets that will actually help move the value of the world effectively, securely, efficiently. That's going to help people rise, because most of this planet's outside of a financial system. There are more people with smartphones than bank accounts. There are more people that literally have these Androids and iPhones than have the ability to receive and give value in the form of money or currency. So these things are changing. Start with basic education. Start looking to even if you put $50 and get some precious metals, or maybe $50 and find a way to invest in assets that will be complying with ISO 20022. Just simple stuff. And prepare yourself and stay present. Like he said, stay present. do the best you can with what you have. In my opinion, there's really great things that are on the horizon for humanity. There's a lot of justice being served. It doesn't look like it. It just depends where you're looking. And I can say from years and years of research and following in this, and I'm sure Eric can agree, there are good things happening. As crazy as it sounds, there's a lot of good things happening. And it just may not look like it to you, especially if you're just starting your journey. So start with education, baby steps, and then choose. You've got to choose. This is your wealth, your future. You got to choose where your mind and attention goes. And that's going to give you the results you're going to be looking for. And you could just start there. Those are a couple of ways just to kind of get started without having to go crazy and freak out, pull all your money out, stash it under your mattress and pray. And like you said, have fear. Oh, they're going to take it all. It's all gone. It's not going to help you. That's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to freak out when you could be calm and poised. Take a deep breath. Maybe not drink some coffee for a week so you could think a little bit clearly and present, right? Get rid of some sugar, drink some coconut water, get some minerals, slow down, read a book, watch a video, and then create a little game plan. And you guys will be good. Okay, you guys will be good because so many of us are already way ahead than most people. And the world is slowly changing. And that's why I always say the best is yet to come. It really is. And I firmly believe that wholeheartedly.
100%. Absolutely. Well, I mean, look at where we're going, right? I mean, like we were saying right before this pod, like, I'll be honest with you guys, man, and I know it might sound scary, but I'm very much a realist in many, in the purest sense of the word.
Yeah.
Where I just like, let's hit rock bottom, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's just do that, because then I know the only trajectory is up.
Yeah.
But so two things in closing, because I know we're kind of getting up to time here. If there's 5 things that people could do in their lives right now to move them either away from the system or to empower themselves, what are those 5 things that you would tell them to establish?
Really good question. 5 things to move them from the system. Well, first, instead of adding, first ask yourself, what in my life, this could be 1 and 2, it could be all 5, really. What in my life do I know 100% or 99% that does not help me, that I'm choosing and I can choose to stop doing? Basic stuff, like just drinking alcohol every weekend. That's not the best thing for you. And it's not necessarily getting out of the system, yet it is, because like Eric said, it's your mind that's in the system.
Right.
Okay. You're already free. Me and Eric's mind, we've trained it that we can still live where we live, be where we are, surround ourselves. We can go out into the world and, meet somebody at Starbucks and have our coconut water and all the things. Yet mentally, right, we're in our bubble. We're in our safe space. We feel safe inside of ourselves. So number 1 is stop doing the things you shouldn't be doing instead of adding stuff. Stop doing the things you shouldn't be doing. Number 2, I would say, is be a part. This is really important. We didn't talk about it too, is be a part of a community. Find community, not your local state officials, not celebrities, or like in-person groups. Ideally in-person groups, whether it's a couple people, maybe other moms that believe, in the same thing about children, whether it's people that are on the same page about growing their own food. You hear it talked about a lot. Oh, live off grid. It's a process to get there. We've been looking at doing that for years, and it takes money. It takes land. It takes resources. It's a process. No matter what, though, the people are right there. So find community, number 2. So number 1, get rid of things. Number 2, find community. I'd say number 3 is what we just talked about. Best thing you can do is start having some type of new education of things you don't know about already. And one of the best things I'd recommend is money, financial education. Financial education. Yes, you can learn about gardening, which is probably right up there too. I would say across the board, start taking some time, whether you got to wake up at 5 a.m. or you got to, say no to March Madness games on Saturday. I don't know whatever you guys do in your life. You take time to learn new skills, because if someone took all my money away from me, I'm not worried, because I know I have the skills and the education. I can get it all back and I can do it again. A lot of us don't have that, where we want the fish instead of learning how to fish. So education, I would say, is number 3. Number four is get healthy, to get yourself out of the system. Because if you're not healthy, you're going to depend on the system to get you healthy, your doctors, your medications, lawyers, insurance companies. And if you're like, man, all these corporations are evil, okay, well, stop giving them your money because you're so sick, or you're so tired, or you need a stimulant, or you need a drug. And that might not happen overnight. That might not happen. So number four is get healthy, whatever that means to you. Maybe it's start exercising a little bit more. Maybe it starts sleeping a little bit more. Maybe it's getting rid of the caffeine or the sugars a little bit more. Kind of goes back to number one. And number five, I would say, is another one again, that is very basic, that many people overlook, many people have gotten away from, many people have doubted in the past, many people have lost belief in this, is your connection to God, your connection to a higher power, your connection to something bigger than you, that is built in love, that is built in trust, that is built in faith, that is built in what is possible, the I am presence, whether it's Buddha, Jesus, God, universe, I don't know. Eric doesn't know. We can't answer that for you. Get back to something, whether it's prayer, maybe it's fasting, maybe it's something that you can, affirmations, or just sitting in silence and listening. Because I kid you not, guys, there's this thing called intuition. You have this higher power that is flowing through your veins right now, that is keeping you alive, and is literally, me and Eric, we're not counting our hearts beating. Something's controlling that. We're not choosing when our blood flows and where it goes. There's something keeping you alive when we sleep for 8 hours a night and we're traveling other worlds in our mind. Something's keeping us alive. So what is that, right? So what is that? So those, I say, are the five things that can get you slowly out of the system, and five things you can do today really to start. And you compound that within a few days or weeks, you're a whole different person. You're truly a whole different person. And all those things are something that you can fully control. And that's, like we said, that's very empowering, instead of giving your ability to choose away to who knows what and who knows who. So those are my Fab Five. It's a great question, man. Great question. I love that.
Yeah, I think those are all great answers. I think that we need to really get back to, just truly understanding the self. I think that everything in the world is designed to be an exoteric experience for us. Everything is always designed to tell you that there's a solution somewhere else.
Yeah.
But what I tell people all the time is stop looking out the window and start looking in the mirror. There is much more power at you looking in the mirror than there. You could look at the window and blame the fact that your health isn't good because of this thing over there, or this circumstance, or that person, or you keep blaming the world. But what I'd like to remind everybody in closing is, I want all of you guys to start doing something that's probably the most simple of all. And that's, every single thing that happens to you is your fault. And I know that a lot of people take that out of context and they say, but there's so much bad that has happened to me. There's so many shitty things that have happened to me. And there's so many, just look at it as your fault.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to blame yourself for it. I'm saying sit with it, understand it, process it, but also remember all the good that you've done is your fault. All your success is your fault. Everything else that you've stumbled across is your fault. All the good relationships, the business you've built, the fact you're a good mother, a good father, you're taking care of your health, you're doing all the right things, that's your fault too. But it's that accountability, that sphere that we're talking about that encompasses all, that's all your fault. You create everything around you. What's happened in the past is just a memory. What's going to happen in the future is just a thought. You have this moment right now to ask yourself, right? What is the most important to you? And whatever happens next is your fault.
Yeah.
And it's quite literally that simple. So, brother, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. I know you're a busy dude, so I just feel like these are the productive conversations that I want to have. I'm not looking for, these people have a big following. It's like, nah, man, who's truly becoming and I don't like the word thought leader, but it's very, it has the most, substance for what I'm trying to kind of, squeeze out of this thing right now. and that's to
Yeah.
get people that are truly grounded and are solution minded. That's what we need more of. So
Yes.
for you coming on today, man, giving all the advice to people, the wisdom, the tangible things that they can do in their lives to change, I really appreciate you taking the time out, man.
Of course, man. Thank you. Likewise, when I heard you share some stuff, like, who is this guy? And like I said, we didn't share how we really had the little meeting and like synchronicities, but it's divine that God puts people in your life. And I jokingly say this, it's like the Avengers. It's like we're finding each other that are grounded and rooted, that have some solutions, that aren't just copy paste fear, clicks, likes, copy paste fear. Nobody knows who's behind the screen because we're no different than the mess we've gotten in. So yeah, it's an honor. I appreciate it, man. I'm always here for you. I'm excited to keep building our connection. You guys can also check out any of the stuff if you liked any of the stuff I've shared. At Come Out Better on Instagram. I'm sure Eric will put all my stuff up. I've got comeoutbetter.com. I have a whole website that people love, a gentle wormhole, a rabbit hole of very good stuff that's powering, thought-provoking, and motivational for you guys. I'm on Twitter, Come Out Better. You catch me on Telegram, Come Out Better, and the O and out is a Q. If you know, the best is truly yet to come. I see so many great things, and it's going to be bumpy. So check us out there. And yeah, this was great, man. Thanks for the space. Thanks for the wisdom and knowledge. And I pray those that are listening that you guys learned something, connected a dot, had some questions answered, and the most important thing, you got a little bit more empowered yourself, because that's what we truly want for you. We want you to find yourself in your way, in your path, and doing so, coming out of those old ways a whole lot better than you were yesterday. So amazing, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.